say the name of Jesus. When I'm on my knees, I'ma need to say the name of Jesus. He's all I need. Through the storm and rain, I stand by his name. There ain't no shame in his name. I'ma need to say the name of Jesus. Name of Jesus.
My name is Constance. I'm a new YouTuber. I'm new to YouTube. My foundation is based on Jesus. I hope you enjoy my content that I will deliver, and I hope that you will like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, and welcome to my channel. Again, my name is Constance.
Hello, family and friends. How are you? I hope everybody's doing good. And I am coming back to you with another video. And I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've been on here. And I apologize. And I will try to do better with the videos. But today I want to kind of like it just come to me. I want to say thank you to all the truck drivers out there. Thank you for driving on these roads, these long trips, hauling all these materials, and thank you so much for getting materials here and there, products, supplies, and things that we need. And just thank you. And may your journeys continue to be safe, and may you continue to drive well. And just thanks for just the long hauls that you do. Thank you to all the truck drivers. Today, I am saying thank you. I appreciate your service. Okay. So let me see if I have made any notes. So we talked about the memorial, which is remembrance that the Lord brought them out of Egypt. The feast, there was their last meal in the land, which is also unleavened bread. But that was their last meal in Egypt. And the audience, which is like a rule, regulation, a law to keep forever, So they came out, chapter 13, Exodus 13. It's going to be different without my Bible. In the NIV version, they say the consecration of the firstborn. So, chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses, consecrate to me every firstborn male, the first offspring, every womb of every womb among the Israelites belongs to me, whether human or animal. And then Moses said to the people, commemorate this day, the day you came out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, because the Lord brought you out of it with a mighty hand. Eat nothing containing yeast. So that would be unleavened bread, the bread that don't rise, and no yeast in it, just plain old bread, flat bread. And verse 4, chapter 13, verse 4, it says, today, in the month of Aviv, you are leaving. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, Jebusites, the land he swore to your ancestors to give you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. You are to observe this um, ceremony in this month. For 7 days, eat bread made without yeast, and on the seventh day, hold a festival to the Lord. Eat unleavened bread during those 7 days. Nothing with yeast in it is to be seen among you, nor shall any yeast be seen anywhere within your borders. On that day, tell your son, I do this because of what the Lord did for me. When I came out of Egypt. This observance will be for you like a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead that this law of the Lord is to be on your lips. For the Lord brought you out of Egypt with his mighty hand. You must keep the ordinance at the appointed time, year after year. So I'm going to stop right there. And I apologize if I'm reading this a little strange. I normally don't read the NIV version. I had not read this, but I hope that you are able to follow along with me. So as I was explaining this, when they came out, they came out of bondage of the Egyptians, and so this is a big deal, and it's like the Lord says, okay, I'm going to give you the decree, remember this and do this and every year and remind your sons, and so we're going to go to it. So crossing the sea. What sea was they crossing? Let's see. This is the journey. When Pharaoh let the people go, this is verse 17, chapter 13, verse 17. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country. Thought that, although it was a shorter route to go through the Philistine way. So let's see why God didn't want to bring them that way. For God said if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people around by the desert road toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt ready for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him because Joseph had made the Israelites swear an oath. He had said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up with you from this place. After leaving Succoth, they camped in Etham on the edge of the desert. By day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of a cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of the cloud by the day nor the pillar of the fire by night left its place in front of the people. And so they were guided by a cloud by day and fire by night onto the journey to the promised land, where God promised their ancestors, I'll give you this land flowing with milk and honey. And so Joseph was family, and he was in Egypt before, and so when all of them came, they all lived there and for a long time and stuff like that. And he was like, when y'all leave here, because he prophesied, he knew that God was coming, and he told him, he was like, take my bones out of here. So they took the bones of Joseph, which was fam, so out of the land. Okay, so now we're going to go to chapter 14. And so I think I'm going to read this chapter and then I'll stop. So let's see what happens in chapter 14 while they're on their journey. The Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp near by Heroth. I don't know how to say that. Between Migdal and the sea. They are to encamp by the sea directly opposite Baal Zephon. Pharaoh will think the Israelites are wandering around the land in confusion, hemmed in by the desert. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, but I will gain glory for myself through Pharaoh and his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites did this. So in verses 14 through in chapter 14, 1 through 4, Pharaoh is thinking like the Israelites just wandering around. They don't know where they're going or whatever. But he doesn't know that God is guiding them. And so the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. And so now he's going to pursue them. And so we're going to move to verse 5. And it says, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, what have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services. So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of his best chariots, along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites who were marching out boldly. The Egyptians, all Pharaoh horses and the chariots and the horsemen and the troops pursued the Israelites and overtook them. Pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea near Fihira. I don't know how to say that. Opposite Baal Zephon. So in verse 10, as Pharaoh approached the Israelites, let's kind of go back. Pursued the Israelites and overtook them as they camped by the sea. As Pharaoh approached the Israelites, looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified, and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? Why, what have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert. So now the Israelites are getting real scared because the Egyptians pursued them and they have a very large army coming after them. And they probably like, well, no weapons, no horses, none of that. And so they were real scared. But in verse 13, Moses said to them, do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. So Moses has great faith, like my shirt. So he has a lot of faith, and he's saying, he's reassuring them, hey, all the stuff that the Lord God did before y'all even got to this point, he got you. You know, he didn't bring you out of here to just leave you alone. So, but them seeing, you know, their eyes seeing all these horses and all that stuff coming after them, you know, I get it. You know, you can be scared, you can be fearful. But Moses, he's like, mm-mm, the Lord got you, got us. So in verse 15, the Lord said to Moses, why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Okay. The Lord's like, really? Okay, verse 16. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. So they had the sea, and if you know, if you know the report, the the sea, it parted by Moses just, you know, stretching out the rod. The waters parted so that they were able to you know, walk on dry sea, the bed of the sea. And so where are we? Let's see. Verse 19. And the angel of God, who had been traveling in front of the Israel's army, withdrew and went behind them. The pillar of the cloud also moved from in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness to one side and light to the other side, so neither went near the other all night long. So the angel kind of confused them, and it kept separation between the Egyptians and the Israelites so that the Egyptians couldn't catch up to them. So then in verse 21, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on the right and on the left side. So on the right side and left side, it's just a wall of water. And so, verse 23, the Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots so that they had difficulty driving, and the Egyptians said, "Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt." So when the Lord looked down and saw them, he caused their wheels on their chariots to jam, and they weren't able to, like race behind them, pursue really fast, and so uh, they were like, "Oh no, this is the Lord." So they're like, let's go back, retreat, retreat. So then the Lord, in verse 26, then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your, he said, stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptian and the other chariots of the horsemen. Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at daybreak the sea went back to its place. The Egyptians were fleeing toward it, and the Lord swept them into the sea. The water flowed back and covered the chariots and the horsemen. The entire army of Pharaoh had followed the Israelites into the sea. Not one of them survived. In verse 29, it says, "But the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground, with the wall of water on the right and the left side. The day the Lord saved Israel from the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant." Okay, that is chapter 14 completed. And so that's part of their journey. And so they're just getting started on this journey to the land, to go to the land in which was promised to them by the Lord, which is already inhabited by the Canaanites, I don't remember all of them, the Hivites, the Hittites, the it's some more, but it's already inhabited, and they're going over there to take the land that the Lord has promised them. And so this is just the beginning of their journey, but they got the Egyptians off their tail, and so they don't have to worry about them no more. And after everyone hears about what happened to the Egyptians and what the Lord did for the Israelites, they're not going to be too quick to want to mess around with the Israelites. So, although the Lord did not have them go through the land where the Philistines were, because of it seems as though that they wouldn't be ready for war, and they would want to go back to their safety where they were in Egypt, so he didn't take them that way. And, not to say they were not unsafe in Egypt, they just were in bondage, and it was like pretty harsh environment. And I had been over there so many years. I think it said 430 years. So it was time for them to come into a land where it is flowing with everything that they need, and it would be their land and not a land of a stranger, and they would be free and not in bondage. So that is it. And if you have any questions or you want to talk about it, feel free to put in the comment section and we can talk about it. I'm so glad that y'all joined me again. I hope that I did help someone. I definitely help myself when I read of this history um, and get understanding of many years ago what happened. And so it's very interesting, very knowledgeable. Um, I enjoy it. So I hope that y'all enjoyed it too. And I'm going to say, with that being said, buenas noches. And that is a good night.